This happened during my college years in 2004, in a town in Pangasinan. 3 men came to our place, one of whom was a spirit medium. He sensed that I had a special gift to visit the spirit world. He even said I could help him search for a lost item. Since I was too curious, I decided to go with them, along with my friends. We went to a nearby town that had a very old abandoned house, a Spanish-style mansion that was right in front of a church. At first, the medium asked me to sit in front of the house and close my eyes. Then he started uttering words in Latin, essentially a chant. As he blew air, I clearly saw a world filled with creepy, terrifying creatures. I was scared, but he told me not to let go or open my eyes. Otherwise, I might not be able to return. So I steadied myself as he called upon the soldiers of Archangel Michael, and suddenly, the creatures around me disappeared. Because of my fear, the medium uttered another chant to close the portal. And when I opened my eyes, I was drenched in sweat. Then, he revealed his true purpose. They were searching for a treasure buried beneath the property, and since I was able to perform astral projection, they wanted to use me to locate the treasure. At first, I couldn't believe it, but the next day was even more intense. We went back to the location, and the medium started the process again. The same thing happened, but this time, while my eyes were closed, I could see the entire property so vividly. It looked full of life. As the psychic medium instructed me to explore the property and describe what I saw, I started to see a dungeon that led to a tunnel, and in the middle, I saw a huge pile of gold. There was so much gold. Then we stopped there and returned to the real world. The next day, to my surprise, they had already begun digging, and a massive tunnel was uncovered right in front of us. I couldn't believe it at that moment. The property was covered with tarps to prevent people from seeing what they were doing. They were using equipment to detect the treasure. We performed astral projection once more to find the exact location of the treasure. This time, I was even more frightened. A man appeared, dressed in all white, with a 1970s or older look, wearing a cap and holding a cane. I will never forget his name when the medium asked me to ask him. He said his name was Edgilberto Mejia. The medium asked, "What is your purpose?" And I repeated the question, relaying everything the man in white said while keeping my eyes closed. I asked, "They are looking for the treasure buried here." The man responded, "It cannot be obtained. You need to shed human blood to get it. And if you insist, each one of you will pay with your lives." I was terrified. When I opened my eyes, I told the psychic that I didn't want to do this anymore, and that I wouldn't return because these spirits were following me home and wouldn't let me sleep. I tried to go on with my life, but I heard that they continued searching for someone else to act as their medium to find the treasure. One day, I received news that shocked me. They forced the excavation of the property, and Kuya A, I won't mention his full name, who was the caretaker of the property, died suddenly one morning without any known cause. Today, the property is completely abandoned. It's near the highway, but you can't see it anymore because it looks like a forest now. They even left all their digging equipment and everything. They didn't listen. Let me tell you a story about how both my aunts were driven out of their houses by dark entities. Let's start with Aunt Marion. She used to live in a well-known condo in Pasig. I would sometimes sleep there when my parents weren't home, or when my aunt wanted us to stay for a vacation. We also had a unit in the adjacent building. Everything was fine during my visits, but things began to change when her adopted daughter Mia turned 3. Mia was a cheerful girl. Although she was an only child, she was used to playing with people since we were always around. And she also had 2 nannies. But they started to notice something was wrong with her. In mid-2014, Mia began talking gibberish. She already knew how to speak, but suddenly she wouldn't speak properly anymore. She would always talk in a gibberish manner. Aunt Marion thought it was a normal problem that could be solved with medicine, so she took Mia to a speech therapist. During each session, Mia would speak clearly, using proper words. They thought, problem solved. However, every time they returned home after a session, Mia would revert to speaking gibberish again. Then Mia started showing eerie signs. She loved sitting in front of a big mirror in their living area, talking non-stop as if she was conversing with someone. She would laugh at times when she was alone. One time at 3 a.m., my aunt woke up and went looking for Mia because she wasn't in their bed. When she entered the living area, Mia was there in front of the big mirror, staring and touching it. That was when scarier things began to happen. Aunt Marion decided to invite over our family's longtime nanny, thinking she could help watch over her daughter. The nanny was from the province and knew a lot about spirits and entities. However, the spirit in the condo probably disliked her presence, because once she arrived, everything worsened. Mia began to change. She was always angry, became violent, and refused to go with anyone. She would always sit in front of the mirror. If you tried to move her from that spot, she would get upset. One time when Ate Nats, the longtime nanny, was fixing herself in front of the mirror while home alone, she felt a very cold breeze behind her. All the windows and doors were closed because she was about to go out. Suddenly, her hair stood on end. Literally. The hair on her head began to rise as if something was pulling it from above. She bolted out of the unit and ran down to the pool area, not returning until Aunt Marion and the other nannies arrived. Fast forward to when our cousin, who, by the way, was very quiet and rarely spoke, came for a vacation. Things got worse. Our cousin started looking sad. She would often lock herself in her room and stare blankly at the balcony. Whenever we asked her something, she wouldn't respond. She would wake up in the wee hours of the night and stand by the balcony. During this time, Mia began crying helplessly every day. Aunt Marion was alarmed, leading to a sudden call for help from a spiritualist. We were there when the spiritualist arrived. She walked around the unit, and when she saw the big mirror, which was situated right in front of the balcony, she stopped and said, "Something came out of here." We were shocked and fell silent. Then Mia began screaming in gibberish. Imagine a 3-year-old being carried by 5 men, and they struggled under her weight as they managed to get her out of the unit, while she cried loudly. The spiritualist then asked, "Marion, do you have a quiet niece? Does she live here?" Our quiet cousin was inside her room, and Aunt Marion said, "Yes, she's in her room." We were terrified when the spiritualist warned, "Get her out. Take your daughter too. It will take 2 lives. She will fall from a height." We all recalled how our cousin often stood by the balcony. We rushed to her room to get her out of the unit. But guess what? This still gives me chills. When we entered her room, she was standing in front of the big mirror inside the bathroom, grinning, and she said, "It must be fun to throw myself down." Then she freakishly laughed. I nearly peed myself. Imagine 5 of us, my aunt, me, 2 cousins, and the spiritualist, all girls, trying to pull her out of the unit while she whispered, "I'll jump, I'll jump." When we finally got her out of the unit, the moment she stepped outside, she lost consciousness. That was the scariest and most devastating time of our lives, because the spiritualist remained upstairs and instructed my aunt to leave immediately, without taking anything from that condo. We did as we were told and hurried to a nearby hotel. While we were in the car, Mia said something that no one wanted to hear. "Mommy, they're not yet done." 4 years later, in March 2019. Aunt number 2, let's name her Christy, the mother of our quiet cousin, and her family started to feel entities in their house. Aunt Christy bought Aunt 1's bathroom door that was used in the unit in Pasig. They used it in the bathroom at the back of their house, which was directed straight to a big tree. Everything was fine until a trucking service occupied the lot behind their house. This particular trucking service started renovating. It was noisy, with a lot of equipment, and they would also work in the wee hours of the night. My aunt has 4 children. The eldest, the quiet cousin, Ate N. Piolo Louis Dan. Louis has always been kind of special, but he was never violent, nor did he scream at anyone. But on March 8th, I remember clearly that things started to get weird. It all began with Louis shouting. He was just screaming, as if he was in pain or scared. Since he has a learning disability, their immediate decision was to take him to a psychiatrist. The doctor gave him a lot of medicine to calm him down. But none of them worked. He would still scream non-stop and start being violent, which was not like Louis at all. On March 10th, they brought him back to the doctor and said none of the meds were working. The doctor immediately asked, "Ma'am, what is going on in your house?" They took Louis home and continued with the meds, but they were ineffective. Until a certain helper, the only one able to talk to and understand Louis, spoke to him and said, "You need to talk to them. Tell them to stop." Then the helper explained that Louis was also seeing these entities, and they were scaring him. A few hours later, that same helper was unable to walk. Her feet felt so heavy that she couldn't move them. On March 12th, 2019, Louis was nowhere to be found. They searched the house until their neighbor said, "He's at the back of your house, in front of the bathroom door by the tree. That's where I saw him." Guess what happened? Louis was under the tree, in front of the door, scratching his back. When they asked him to lift his shirt, they saw a really big wound on his back that wasn't there the day before. Big scratches. They were alarmed because the wound was deep. Their decision. They called a priest over to bless the house again. Both my aunts in this story are very religious. On March 14th, 2019, the priest arrived. He started blessing the house, from the living room to the bedrooms and work area. When he started blessing the back of the house near the bathroom and the tree, Louis started screaming. He ran to their gate and began banging on it. He started to break down the gate. The initial reaction was to stop Louis, so that's what Aunt Christy did. When she did, Louis said one sentence fluently, "Touch me again, and I will kill you." That was when Ate N, the quiet cousin who stayed in Aunt 1's unit, screamed inside the house and said, "Mom, it's the same entity. Mom, they are here." 3 black women, the same women from the unit. The same women who had been forcing her to jump were now pestering her younger brother Louis. The next day, they were instructed by the priest to move out and bring nothing with them. They left everything. They didn't even take any clothes. And when they were about to leave, all of them heard a woman say, "Don't come back." If you're craving more spine-chilling tales, Join us for more haunting mysteries and horror stories. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notifications.